SME Heartbeats is more than a podcast. It's a mission to spotlight the unsung champions of our global village. Together, we'll explore their challenges, celebrate their triumphs, and learn from their journeys. So now you're an entrepreneur, you're a podcast host, you're a super duper dad. I know you prioritize your kids, which is fantastic. What does a day in your life look like?
If you could see my living room, there's about 100 balloons because today's my son's 8th birthday. So we spent all night last night filling the living room with balloons. But no, I obviously love my kids. I love the family life. I wouldn't say I'm necessarily a podcaster. I have a podcast as part of, I believe every entrepreneur at this point has to do media, social media, content creation. You mentioned earlier, you worked with the 8 individuals you worked with and you were like, hey, I want to spread your message. I had this conversation with one of our clients literally yesterday afternoon. I'm trying to get them to put content. I'm like, here's 90 days of ideas. I script out ideas. So each day, just follow this. It doesn't have to be exact. This is a guideline for some ideas. Maybe do a talking head. Just take your phone and do that, or put some thought into it. Take half hour to an hour every day and create content. I think every business now has to be a media company, arguably, whether it's starting a podcast, creating content, getting content out there, going and networking and being at events and showcasing yourself at those events, hosting events, live streaming them, any kind of media and outreach that you can do that gets your face, your brand, your name, your ideas, your thoughts out into the world. I don't know why
that came. Global village.
Yeah, exactly. Just out into the wide world, the World Wide Web, right? Just get it out there because, and this sort of to that point is, it used to be location was the brick and mortar. And I think you and I touched on this the last time we were talking, right? And I think it used to be, can you get the corner of Main Street and First Street downtown, whatever town you were in? That was like the prime retail location or business location or even office location because everyone came into the core or whatever. That's evolved to obviously print and TV and ads and billboards, and that was the next wave of that. I think now, I don't know how many businesses are still brick and mortar. It's obviously a steep decline to now everyone's online. If you don't have a website, I spoke to somebody the other day who doesn't have a website.
Spoke to someone too.
I was like, what? In what world are we living in, right? Like, at the very least, a landing page, like it's free, arguably. It's dollars to get a domain and put it up on GoDaddy and just, right, and SEO and stuff. But I think now that's even shifted where that's just mandatory. You have to have that. Now to be found, you need to be on social media. The social media, it's where the discussion's being had. It's where ideas are being shared. It's where people, their attention is. And yes, there's a lot of noise, but if you can either find a small niche of people where you're speaking to them around whatever is of interest to you and them, obviously it needs to be authentic and a two-way street. Or if it's a broader message, you're having that broader conversation with the masses, which is a lot harder, but businesses are at different stages.
Taking a psychology course because psychology and neuroscience is totally geek.
Yeah,
same. And the professor was saying that I had this body of knowledge that I learned from my teachers. And with that body of knowledge, I created something different with it. Right. I evolved it to something else. And he said, as you learn from me, I expect you to take the knowledge I am now giving you and take it, evolve it, make it your own, and share it with the masses in an even better way. And he said, that's real knowledge. That's real community learning is when you do that.
No, definitely. And psychology, I love psychology as well. That in my undergrad, some of my most favorite courses were psych. I actually was looking at being potentially a sports psychologist at some point. Philosophy and psychology were my 2 favorite parts of my undergrad education. Another bad quote, but I'll try it anyways.
We're going to call the episode Quote Butchering.
Exactly. Basically, it's like copying is the form of flattery or the greatest form of flattery.
Yes, very true.
Yeah.
At least I try to take it like that.
But I think it's taking the knowledge, packaging it up as you see it from your perspective, your context, and then being able to apply it to your world and dispel it to others as you see it, which gives it your spin, your take on it.
I think that is a compliment. I also think that's just how the world evolves, innovates, and move forward.
Yeah.
So I don't think there should be any shame in it, but I do think that if we know where it came from,
Yeah.
we should share. There's times where as you're living your life and you're learning, we don't just learn from school, we learn from experience, enlightened thought, things like that. Sometimes what we may have gotten from someone else now becomes part of our reality.
Yeah.
And so we don't think it comes from anybody else. We think it's our own brilliance.
That's an interesting point. So there's the concept of perspective and perception.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Your perception is how you perceive things based on your own perspective.
Exactly.
But if you can take somebody else's perspective, then you can start to really understand how they see it. That's like a whole kind of opens up a whole different can of worms.
Yeah. And that perseverance, I think, so layering on that perseverance is persevering with a growth mindset, or I used to always tell my team, always be in beta. Right. So as you persevere, you're always looking for ways to be better, to do better, to be more efficient. Exactly, in a better, stronger way. And then your efforts, that perseverance leads to your efforts compounding and evolving as you fall forward.
The target's always moving, right? It's always a moving target. You can never rest on your laurels, right? You need to persevere. You need to keep pushing forward in entrepreneurship. You brought up like relationships. There's no relationship that just comes easy. You both have to work at it, right? There needs to be, whether it's friends, your significant other, whatever, your family, relationships, even just friendships, or like work within an environment with your coworkers and your whatever you want to call them, the people around you, your customers, clients, users, like that takes work. Like everything takes a bit of work, and it takes you persevering and showing up every day consistently.
I'm an entrepreneur with a startup.
Yeah.
In the technology space. I am a female and I am over 40.
Yes.
And my profile, like many others, and so I say myself because many others are variations of what I represent. And whether they have one thing in common or all of the things in common plus, they are not, even though there's been so many programs that have been launched by traditional institutions, I've not seen the needle move. And so the reason I bring this up is because would you consider that backers is a viable opportunity to level the playing field for brilliant people in maybe unconventional,
underserviced communities? 100%, 1,000%, 1,000,000%. I was literally at an event 2 days ago called Rep Matters. It was discussing Black creators, entrepreneurs, and founders, and just the ecosystem around them. And it's a good discussion. It was like a fireside type chat. There's a few individuals, leaders from the community, and I was there just as a participant, listening to what they have to say. 100%, 1,000%, 1,000,000%. So just to give you some statistics, less than 1% of any business gets VC funding. So very few companies in general get funding from venture capital. The staggering numbers are less than 1.5% in 2023. Female founders got VC funding. So less than 1.5%. That's 1 in 80, right?
Yeah.
Roughly, right? So you're looking at less than that. 1 in 70 is less than 1.5%. Female founders got funding from VCs. Less than 5% of people of color got funding through VC. I used to look at these stats in 2018, 19. I was like, wow, this shit's going to change. I acknowledge I'm white, male, born in Canada, whatever. And it's hard enough for me, but degrees harder, right? And so by all means, backers provides an opportunity for, I think, two sides of the conversation to evolve. I don't want to get in too much because I actually had a conversation with ChatGPT and I was trying to convince it, will crowd investing eliminate venture capital? And it was like, no, if to the death it fought me. And I was like, who's feeding you this information?
So ChatGPT.
For sure. Fighting an uphill battle. But the point I was getting at is the people that can now invest in early stage companies have never had that opportunity. And who are those people? Now, it's everybody. the people that have the money that have been dictating where it goes are that 1%. They have the money, and they're dictating where the money goes, and the money's going to their good old buddies' kids, if you will, right? That's that. I don't want to feed too much, but now your community, which is your community. So you mentioned you're visible minority, over 40, female, all these different things. So people like you can support people like you. And the cool thing about this is people that are wealthy often made their money through investments. Yes. Often in early stage startups. Like you look at the people now that are running some of these large funds down the States. So they invested in Facebook, Twitter, Amazon, like some of these guys like that A2Z or whatever his name is. My brain is fried right now, but he basically put his only 50 grand into Facebook and now he's like a billionaire, right? So it's
the fastest growing millionaires that exist are people who gained their riches the fastest, I think.
Yeah, through investing in these early stage startups, right?
Exactly.
And I'll use the example, like what is $1,000 invested in Amazon when Jeff Bezos was raising his first $1 million? What would $1,000 invested in Amazon? This is 1994. So way before they went public. What do you think that $1,000 would be worth roughly today?
Oh my gosh. My non-accounting background says a lot of money.
I'll save it roughly 70 to 80 million.
Okay.
So that's a good return on investment. So yes. Imagine now that the community that you're servicing and supporting and you're going to grow with could also be investing in your business, making them money, growing their wealth, while at the same time you're servicing them and creating a better environment and products for them, right? It's not let's grow at the fastest pace, let's churn so that we can get our money back, like that traditional investor model. You're there for the community. So the community is invested in, you're building something for the community, whatever that community is. And so that now opens everyone up to growth together, those that have invested in their success. And I believe I almost got ChatGPT to agree as well that in 20, 30, 50 years, crowd investing will arguably outright eliminate venture capital or that mindset of VCs.
I wrote an article this week just talking about small, medium businesses and the importance of supporting them. There was a quote that I had seen that I've repeated so many times, but this time I'm actually got my phone out so I could say the quote.
Let's get it right this time.
It's by Anna Lapp. I don't know if it's Lappy or Lapp. She's an activist, I think climate change or something. And her quote is, every time you spend money, you're casting a vote for the kind of world you want to live in.
Right. 100%.
And so with backers, I think that's something that can resonate with people and give people the power they're missing. I'm not trying to do an advertisement here, but I think the concept of what you're doing is really interesting. Sure. We're living in a really precarious time right now. I think many of us are facing this moment of truth where we're like, what kind of world do we really want to live in?
Right.
Many are not satisfied with what we are witnessing or participating in. And I think this is an opportunity to say, hey, I want the world to go in this direction. Let me use my dollar to back organizations that reflect the things I think the world needs or that I want to see more of in the world.
Exactly. It takes it from, like you said, the purchasing power of dictating to even one step further, like you said, then investing in the businesses, right? That's
that cup of tea or that cup of coffee from the corner mom and pop shop, or you can invest $100 or $1,000 and make them money and make you money, which I think is a fabulous relationship.
Exactly. I mean, that is the key to backers, right? It's really about everyone, all ships rise. A rising tide lifts all ships, right?
Yeah. Do they invest? Do they get a say in it?
So typically it's non-voting. So it'd be non-voting common shares. And so just to clarify some things, obviously it is a somewhat longer term hold. There's no trading. There's some things that we're working on to make it a little more liquid, but it is usually a longer term hold, 3, 5, 7, 10 years. But if you're investing for the future, you've got RRSPs and whatever, you're not touching those either for 10, 20 years. It's and really
taxed 25%.
This will be taxed at capital gains, which is a lower tax. So there's some tax implications there. I'm not a tax accountant necessarily, but there's definitely advantages there from taking it as income and maybe putting it in. So there's some sheltering, but really it's the appreciation, right? it's, if you get it and the diversification into things that you value, there's definitely the return on investment, significant return on investment. But like you said, it's also the societal benefit or gain that you get as investing in and putting your money to work in things you think are valuable and meaningful. And that's really key as well. So non-voting common shares, they're not necessarily dictating the day-to-day operations. There's very limited kind of reporting requirements. So it's not like it becomes very arduous to the company to have these shareholders. Like I said, there's a lot of benefit that comes from them, from the network, support, community, and loyalty they bring. They become part of your diehard fans.
I call it love money.
I like it.
Organizations tend to look at the smaller investors, or actually not look at them and focus on the VC funds, the banks. Yeah. And so I wanted to label it something so that whoever was taking care of the accounting in the organization would always remember the importance
of them.
These. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I think that's just a driving, look, every business is run and built by people. It's just part of the human experience, and it's the only way businesses are done. There's emotion and there's love and there's consideration. And so I don't think that you've gone too far. I think it's a reminder about integrity, loyalty, and commitment that we need to bring each other forward.
100%. That was the thought process that I was going with. It is the early people it is the love money. It's the people that love what you're doing and they're ready to step in and back you.
Exactly.
I was thinking like back a winner, back your community backers, right? That was you feed the letters through, like back this, back, and it's like back your community, back your loved ones, backers. Yeah. And that's what we do. That's what I do. We support the people that are getting the support from backers.
I think if we do that, look, over 90% of the organizations in the world are SMEs.
Yeah. Do you know how many employer businesses there are in Canada?
I had to do it for a deck, and now I forget.
So there's 1.2 million employer businesses just in Canada.
80% of the global workforce.
Yeah.
The jobs have been created and held up by small, medium businesses.
Yeah, exactly.
And 95% of I think there's another statistics that's actually 99, but we'll say 95 to be conservative, is the percent of the businesses that are small, medium businesses. And that's from the World Bank.
You look at what is defined as a small business. Is it like 100 million in revenue or 20 million? I don't know where that cutoff is, but yeah, there's very few companies that make over 100 million in revenue or over $1 billion in revenue. So think of those are the large corporations. Think of all the companies that are making 10, 20, 30, 40 million.
Yeah.
There's probably walk out your doors, you'll see 15 of them in your neighborhood, right?
The country, there's less than 500 people.
And all of them have something related to them. Yeah.
I think one of my missions, or one of my theories, I believe, is that if we're able to fortify and authentically prop up, encourage all of these small, medium businesses, they'll be able to treat their employees and diversified workforce.
Yeah.
And when people have the means to survive, they're much more open and considerate of helping others in the community.
Yeah.
So if we can accomplish that, we can really create a better world for it.
100%. And I think it's super easy to say from the rooftop, hey, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. But when everything around you is you're just trying to survive, like you're just in survival mode. Yep. Believe me, I've been there and I've done it, and it's extremely hard.
Absolutely.
Not everyone's probably done this, but I recall a few years ago in No Frills wondering, is my car going to decline at some point? But because you're always teetering on the cash. But but now I watch these videos, people are like, if you've never just sat waiting for it to be approved, you've never dealt with the trauma of it not going through. It's easy for people at the top to say, just do it. But if the broader community can support each other to help everyone, rise up, that's where support comes in, and that's where true change will happen.